Welcome to Leadership Speaking Radio, the podcast for leaders and changemakers who want to learn how to communicate with impact, authenticity, and human connection to their peers, teams, and customers in order to build better relationships, better their bottom lines, and become better leaders. My name is Dr. Laura Penn. I'm the founder of the Leadership Speaking School, and I'm your host. Visit the website www.theleadershipspeakingschool.com to find out more about how we can support you to show up as the best version of yourself every time you speak. Now, let's get straight into our topic. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for another episode of Leadership Speaking Radio. This is episode number 59, and I'm calling it An Introvert's Guide to Leadership Communication. Yes, here we are. This episode is a download of a lot of work that I've been doing lately with people who I would call introverts. And I wanted to share some of the highlights of the work so that you, if you are an introvert, or identify as someone who is introverted, so that you can learn how to thrive and not just survive when you communicate in front of audiences. So let's get straight into this, shall we? What is an introvert? Someone who gets energy from being alone. Someone who it takes a lot of energy for to be around other people. And someone who, when they are speaking in front of audiences, doesn't feel comfortable necessarily revealing, being outside, or even connecting with the people that they are speaking to. I hope you don't take issue with any of these descriptions of how I'm coming at the word introvert. My intention in this podcast episode is to shine the light on what you can do if you feel inclined not to be outwards with your audiences. So that's where this is coming from. I want to be able to share some golden nuggets with you about some of the things that you can do to open some of the valves that you might be closing as a communicator. Because at the end of the day, when you're speaking in front of others, the main intention is to be there for them. The main intention is to serve them or give them something of value that they can take away and use to heighten and amplify something in their lives, right? In coming at this from the angle of an introverted person communicating, I'm going to be talking about a few things that I see in my work that I would categorize as somebody who is an introvert does. Okay? So let's look at some of those things. And if you identify with these things, so be it. I hope that you can find that some of my suggestions can help to bring yourself out so that you can connect to your audiences the way that they need to be connected to. Let's begin with talking about presence. Now, you know me, I love me some presence. I love talking about this topic. I love describing it. What does presence look like for somebody who might be called an introvert? It is behind, contracted, hidden, shielded, guarded energy. And you know from the last episode about habits that I talk about, the fact that when you have a habit, it's because you've developed that habit in order to survive, right? Something that you have started doing or been doing for a while because it supported you to show up a certain way in a certain situation with certain people. And again, I'm not here to judge habits. I'm here to say that habits are there to support you, but habits, when it comes to learning the craft of something like leadership communication, can hold you back from delivering the work with the toolbox that craft gives you. Yeah? So if your habit is to show up in presence that is contracted, removed, in essence, where the body reading says that you don't want to be there, your feet might be tucked underneath the chair, your body might be in lockdown with some sort of crossing movement of your arms, of your legs. Your gaze might not be forward, it might be looking down or away. These are all physical vocabulary words, right? Each gesture is a vocabulary word. These are each physical vocabulary words that say, I don't want to be here right now. And this is presence language that if you were to show up like this in a communication situation, would read as the same thing. I don't want to be here right now. Now, we've got to do something that you might find a little disruptive, and it might trigger you. And I don't intend to make this uncomfortable, but I intend to keep this real. I want to remind you that leadership communication, public speaking, is a performance art. And in that fact, you have to do something inside of your body. You have to use your body somehow. You have to embody craft work in order to come out, right? In order to deliver something. And obviously, when it comes to speaking in front of audiences, that thing that's going to come out is your breath, your voice, your message. And it's important to understand that there's work to do. If you're showing up with a presence of contraction that reads as, I don't want to be here, the work to do is to come out of that contraction just enough for that presence to read, I want to be here. Does that make sense? And that's about releasing tension. That's about understanding that you are in that room that day with that audience, with that message, not for the sake of you and your benefit, but for the sake of them and their benefit. In other words, there's a way to frame the speaking that you are doing where you think about it not as, this is all about me and I feel like I don't want to come out of my shell and I don't want to be here right now. It's not about that. It's about, I am here in this room to give you something. If you are introverted, I want to invite you to think about your communication opportunities as gifts that you are giving to your audience. And when you are giving an audience a gift, you're going to do that by releasing tension. You're going to do that by opening, not closing. You're going to do that by releasing, not holding back. So when it comes to presence, your energy, your vibe, open is better than closed. So if your habits are to close down, what would happen if you don't sit in a tight pretzel with your arms and your legs? What would happen if you just opened them like this? Well, what would happen is you're going to feel very uncomfortable because it feels more exposed, not to be closed. But what's also going to happen in this context is now you are saying a different message with your body. You are saying, I want to be here. I am available for this communication. I'm at the ready. That's what the audience deserves as a part of your presence gift, for you to appear available. And here's some good news. What your body does, your mind does. So once you start adopting this more open body language, after the rigmarole of getting used to the fact that it feels more exposed, something magical is going to click in. And that is that your body is going to say, I'm okay with this. What my body does, my mind does. When my body is open, so is my mind. And that's going to make it just that much easier for you to show up in authentic presence with your audiences. Let's talk about breath now. The breath of somebody who's introverted is going to be, again, in that contraction. So we really can say that introversion, when it comes to speaking in front of audiences, is about contraction, about holding back. And I want to remind you that this is not free energy. When you contract, you are using energy. You're burning calories in your body to contract those muscles. It takes an effort, in other words. My invitation is to tease open some of that contraction by preparing your body so that you can breathe more freely. So it's very important, if you consider yourself to be an introvert when it comes to communicating with others, for you to free your body of tension. Moving around and doing a little warm-up before you do that talking. So going straight from your chair in a sitting position and going to a standing position of delivering your talk, or if you're doing an online conversation or a meeting or a presentation and you are sitting hunched over and you're going from one meeting to another with this tension, that is not going to allow you to expand into the presence or the breath that you need in order to connect with your audiences. So my suggestion is for you to get your breath ready, get your body ready. Get your body ready by warming up and moving around. I'm talking about literally, I'm talking about jumping jacks. I'm talking about, you know what I like to say about Spotify playlists. I'm talking about listening to your favorite music and letting that movement of your body happen. I'm talking about standing and feeling the connection of your feet to the ground, rooting, having a slight bend in your knees so that you don't have locked knees. Locked knees are the enemy of connection, just like contraction, right? Tension. Locked knees are the enemy of anything. And as somebody who might be introverted, locked knees might be your modus operandi. Softening those knees actually delivers a domino effect. When the knees soften, the ankle soften, the feet root better to the ground, the legs are more aligned underneath the hip bones. The hip bones are connected to the leg, right? Everything's connected. That release is really important for the locked knee. So moving your body, unlocking your knees, getting yourself physically prepared, because what your body does, your breath does, your voice does, your mind does. So this is another element of your preparation, if you're an introvert, to get your body ready, to breathe, to flow, to open. All right, so now let's just move into another element here of the voice. And if you're an introvert, that tension that is a part of holding back is really doing its job in holding back your voice. If you think about your voice as your breath, you have to think of, what am I doing to my breath that is contracted? How am I sitting? How am I standing? Where are my shoulders? Am I clenching the muscles in my jaw? Right? Do I feel tension in my forehead? Any kind of tension is going to create a voice that is blocked. So much of learning the craft of leadership speaking, and in particular when you're working on the voice element, the vocal element, is about releasing this tension. And there are many very detailed exercises to do this. I can't teach them to you on a podcast. We have to work live for that. But I can tell you that tension and releasing it is the number one way that you need to work with your opening of your voice. That means finding exercises that release tension for the voice. That means breathing, releasing the tension of the jaw, stretching your tongue, right? Counting to 10, enunciating. All of these different things that you need to do will release the tension of your voice. If you don't do this work, your voice is going to sound like this. Now, I am going to be exaggerating this, but right now, everything is tense. And that pressing down on my vocal cords is called sitting on the voice. That contraction of my chest is removing that freedom of the movement of my ribs, where everything just becomes this tight space. You have no range with your voice. You kind of get stuck in this monotone way. So basically, all the bells and whistles of what your voice is capable of can't happen if you are tense. So that body warm-up that I talked about earlier about the breath being released, that also helps, of course, your voice. So I would say this, if you're an introvert and you are working on ways to open as opposed to being closed when you are communicating with others, in your preparation, in your warm-up, do at least 10 minutes of work with your body, freeing that tension. Find your way. You will feel the difference. And most importantly, your audiences will not only feel, but also hear the difference of what that unblocked or more unblocked voice sounds like. So there's some themes that are coming up here in my messaging to you, introverts, which is that tension is your enemy, number one. And the work that you need to do in showing up a little more open and closing less is to release this tension. And one of those ways, of course, is to move the body like I've talked about. But another way that I've also talked about very briefly is to move your mind. And this is the mindset of, it's not about me, it's about my audience, right? And that leadership speaking is an embodied performing art. What do I need to do to show up for my audience? How can I use my full instrument for this work? Okay? So this is the takeaway that I want you to have from this podcast, that the work to do is to release your tension and to release your mindset from this thinking that it's about you, that it's not about the audience. So that's what I want to leave you with, something short and sweet, but something that I hope makes a difference for you. And the work is to get started. So before you have a presentation, whether it's live or online, go somewhere, a bathroom stall, a hallway closet, a broom closet, wherever you need to be, an abandoned place in a building that you're at, or just bringing the blinds down in your office. Go somewhere and move your body. And center yourself thinking, this is not about me. This is what my audience needs. What does my audience need from me? They need me to be open, available, accessible, and present. They need me to unclench my arms and open them. They need me to remove my feet from being hidden underneath the chair and sit at the ready, right? This is your work. This will make a huge difference. And I'm not asking you to go all the way to the other side of pushing yourself into your audience. I'm not asking you to be somebody you're not. I'm asking you to step in to what releasing tension gives you as a communicator. And as a result of this, you will feel an authentic connection with your audience. And here's some really good news. That when you feel this authentic connection, you will want to do it again. And then again. And then again. Because what do I like to say? Communication is supposed to feel good. And if it doesn't, something needs to shift. If you're an introvert, perhaps that shift is for you to be releasing that tension intentionally. So there you go. All right, that's your work. Get to it. Let me know how it goes. You know you can contact me on my contact form on my website, www.theleadershipspeakingschool.com. Go there, find the contact form. Tell me how these things are going. Tell me how this works. What are the results? What are the fruits of your labor? What happens when you step into this craft, into the light? So that's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you took something away if you're an introvert. I want to give you this message in love. Yes, I do. There's so much of you that the world needs to see, wants to see, deserves to see. Release your tension. Reveal yourself. So that's it for now. I will talk to you next time. Let me wrap this up. I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed delivering it. Subscribe now to the Leadership Speaking Radio podcast to be sure not to miss an episode. And don't forget to visit the website, every time that you communicate with your peers, teams, and customers. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your ears. As always, if you have a friend, a colleague, or a family member that you think would benefit from this work that is being done here in this podcast, go ahead and share this link with them and let them know that we exist. And if you really want to, which I would appreciate so much, give us a 5-star review so that other people can find this podcast and so that it can support and help them as much as I hope it's supporting and helping you. All right, that's all for now. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening.